So, all right, Quentin, take it away. Show us some of the new toys.
You muted.
You're muted though.
Thank you. I was going to say I don't have like an order or structure of this, but so I'm curious what people are interested to see, or I don't know. I could just list. I don't know what the best way to do it is. This will take me a little while to think through the best way to present it. Um,
I mean, the linter's worth showing off again just because
okay.
I mean, I feel like that was a game changer for some of the students. Um,
They have not all run it against their projects. We just saw them demo today.
I don't think any of the students I demoed with today had used it yet, but
Yeah,
the students I've been
but a
working with
few
at the
have.
chalkboard for sure.
Okay. That's a great place to start. That makes sense. So I guess big picture, I've been making it my project over the last couple months to really push forward the way that the lab uses AI to do interview authoring. I think it has a lot of potential to help our students when they're developing, to help us respond more quickly to need. And the tools are actually able to do it now a lot better than they ever have been. So what what that means for me is thinking through, okay, well, we have all this content that we've been pushing for new learners about developing with the assembly line. Can we, how can we best leverage AI to take advantage of that same information? So I'll just show you, right? Like, so we have a little bit of this written down here now that I think about it. Um, the style guide here, writing good questions, all the different screens here, building an off ramps, how to group questions, coding style guide stuff here too. These are all things that to us make it not just a good interview that works that someone can interact with, but that actually is maintainable, that someone can come to in a year and update the form, which is going to always be a bit more of a manual, well, at least for now, it's a bit more of a manual process compared to starting it from scratch, where you kind of get to make so many more decisions on your own. So part of that means coming up with ways to enforce all these rules. And one of those is the linter that Sam just mentioned.
And what is a linter, Quentin? I have
Bit of a
encountered the
geeky
word.
term.
I think I know what it is, but I'm really not certain.
It is really just a way to say, so like you get a bunch of people in a room and they're all doing some process. They like to come up with rules, right? Like you have the manual of style, uh, various ones for different news organizations, for example. It's the same thing for code. Because programmers write programs, they write programs that can enforce those rules. So a linter is a tool that just looks through all of your code and it says this follows the style guidelines or it doesn't. Instead of having to have an editor look it over and say this is right or wrong, it's an automated process. And we probably shouldn't use the word lint here because it's confusing to people maybe, but
It's like the grammar checker in Microsoft Word, just more sophisticated.
yes, that's a very good analogy.
Yeah.
And our tool doesn't do grammar checking, but it does do spell checking. So it will spell check your interview too.
Hmm.
And a lot of this is based on stuff that Bryce worked on a couple of years ago when we had this Pew grant. Um, and we're just able to jazz it up a little bit more with additional features. So let's say we take an interview here. Can show you what it looks like. This is the adult guardianship interview. That was never finished, and it's a pretty good one to pick apart because it has probably a lot of. Oh, this one somehow got overwritten by not the adult guardianship. Uh, that still might still work anyway. If we run this, we can decide whether or not to run AI checks. That adds a couple of heuristics. It will read the text and it will be a little bit pickier. It's like, hey, this isn't clear. This is confusing. It'll tell you that for each block of text. You can run it against an interview that's installed on the server. You can upload a file. You can point it to your playground. You can decide whether to run just all of the checks, or if you choose WCAG, there's some specific checks it'll run just for accessibility. And I'll choose that one, even though this is the interview. If you might recognize this is just the stock interview that comes with Docassemble here.
Sorry, Quinten, when you run this linter, will it also, when you do your playground project, will it also go through your source folder and look at all your feature files as well?
No, it only looks at the questions
YAMLs.
folder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
All right. So this I think I got to figure out the presentation a little bit more. So it has 5 red findings, 3 yellow, and 0 green, which these are in order of severity. There's no ID on
Bad
this
form on this
question.
one, huh?
What's that? Yeah, I know. He was the
Bad form
demo
on this
interview.
one.
This is funny though. Here it's warning us. We said hello. I surmise you have no more than inhabitants. So this is actually an artifact of it parsing out the variable names. And so this is unclear. You're right, it's unclear, but actually it's going to be filled with the person's name. So it's not really, it's totally fine. Um, this is telling me it's judgmental wording about inhabitants too. So we're using the GPT-5 Nano, which is not that smart, most part. So some of the heuristic ones that have the little magic icon here, they're worth looking at. I think they're more helpful than not to look at, but they're not going to be 100% accurate. So all these mandatory findings are missing IDs, which is something we really emphasize in the assembly line. It's not required by Docassemble, but there are a lot of really good reasons to do that. It's telling us there's no theme here specific to this interview, which is, again, something we want to be done before we publish the interview. And okay, this is good. Interview has more than one mandatory true block. That's like a coding style thing that it's caught. And then for court forms online, we have all this metadata that we will use to describe the interview that helps create all these different parts to be filled in. Review date, what forms it makes, what you need to know before you start it. This interview has none of those things. So it's calling out those missing metadata fields that we would use to publish the interview on court forms online. So, well, yeah, a little bit like, let me see if I can find another one that's going to be more substantive.
I mean, one of the things that strikes me as really helpful about this is like when we're building interviews for people, we'll often say like, when we talk about what the requirements are for the student's work, it's will comply with our style guide. And now we have a checker that will actually tell us if it does. And I can like if we had when we have a contract with the trial court, we can say, here, we've complied with the style guide here, or what you're telling us to do does or doesn't. So it seems like a really helpful set of standards to be able to use.
And it, for the most part, uses rules. It's not
Yeah.
using AI. Like I actually did use AI to help me put this all together and like do this code, the formatting of this AI assisted coding. But it's a series of rules that run exactly the same every time, which is why sometimes they're wrong. Here's a good one. This is a list of field choices that have just the description without a value, and that means it's not going to be translatable reliably. Here, this is an AI suggestion. It's found this is a very long and confusing paragraph, which looking at it, it is kind of confusing, so it's probably right. Here is one that is a rule-based finding. So we have that list of plainlanguage.gov simple words and phrases to use to replace complex words and phrases. So this uses that substitution list. And whenever it catches one of the complex words, it gives you a suggestion of the simpler one.
I think you said the other day you can tell if it's an AI suggestion versus rules-based from the little sparkle there.
Yeah. So we have one AI finding here, and most of them are rules-based. Well, okay, there's a few more. So I think this is the kind of thing where I would love for people to keep using it. And if they're like, hey, this is a false positive that annoys me every time, we would try to fix this. It should mostly be things every time you see them, you want to act on them, I guess, more than, I don't know. We can maybe tweak how picky it's going to be and hide them from the fuzzier things we could hide maybe for experts, but show our students because it's probably good for them to think about even the fuzzier things that we might be wrong.
Quinten, can you sort the so you can up at the top you can say only show me red, severe, only show me you can't yeah, okay. You
Not
just see
yet,
all of
no.
them and then it just gives tags them however they category. Okay.
You can show multiple. This is something I just realized. I should let you collapse the individual code blocks because you don't always want to see that.
Hmm.
Um, but you can if you can select multiple interviews, and then it will let you collapse those. That's the main navigation you get. And then all of these reference links do take you to part of our style guide.
That's helpful. I think that's really helpful.
So, I mean, sometimes it's general and sometimes it's really specific. And okay, so that's one thing. I'll show you one other thing, which is maybe a little bit more abstract. But if you look at the dashboard, we have all these different tools that we've had available for a long time, like generate a review screen, validate the syntax of a Word document, create a translation file, um, create labels for a Word document automatically with AI. That was one we had for a while. PDF, same thing, labeling the PDF automatically with AI. So what I've done is I've taken all of those that used to just be front-end tools in the dashboard here. This is a new one, reformat YAML. That's still in, I think we haven't merged this yet. I can't remember. Maybe I did. This will reformat your YAML, by the way. I just said this on Monday, Caroline, but yes, it's in there now. So
Oh, cool.
at least in a branch. So you can rewrite your playground in place to fix the formatting of your code blocks in your interview files. So these are all fine. You can click around and use them if you're a human, right? But for the AI, it's not that easy to use them. Um, so I made all the ones that made sense into endpoints that you can call from another system. You need to be logged in, or have your AI log in using a developer API token, which you can get here from utilities. No, not utilities. Profile API keys. So you would need to
Oh,
make
yeah.
one for the system to use, but then it can log in automatically on its own, and it can access all of these tools um, to do things like add labels to a Word document, add labels to a PDF, and then it can relabel those. So you can have, these are all, for the most part, it's going to give you a first pass that's pretty good. You should probably be iterating and working interactively with the AI and giving it feedback and not let it try to do too big of a chunk all on its own, unaided.
So how might I use one of these?
So what you would do, you could point this. Okay, we can try this. Let's try. I mean, and we have a half hour, so I don't know how far we'll get, but we could try this. Let's see like what we would do. I'm going to go to our list of forms and JJ, I'm really sorry you picked up one that I had already worked on. It makes sense. It was in your home state.
Yeah,
We were working on this.
I was really excited about doing that one, but it's all good.
I'm really sorry. I automated generating this list, and it was like, does it already have a guided interview? It didn't until I made it, but I didn't update the list to reflect that. That was poor form. Let's try Delaware. Um, let's find the PDF. Oh, it's a Word document, even better potentially.
So what are you doing with are you downloading the Word document to your local machine right now? Or you're opening it in
I'm
are
opening
you
it
in
in my
your,
local computer. Yeah. Okay. This one has word fields, which I don't know if those are going to be handled correctly or not. Um, Let's try one that's just a PDF or a Word document without fields. Okay, so this is a PDF with fields. Let's download it. I'll show you one more thing. So like, here's a list of tools that you can use in the dashboard. We have a similar list of tools that you can use from the Weaver, which is the actual code generation path. What did I do? Something wrong. Oh, I didn't copy the whole URL. Okay. And this just lets you go through and do the auto code generating path the Weaver normally does. Okay, so I have the PDF. I don't have like a full set of instructions, but I have a partial one here. And hold on, too many things. There's a list here of authoring interviews with AI. So I might be able to point this at this list here and just say, all right, start with this. Start trying to make this into an interview for me. Right, so I'm going to try that.
So you've run the commands above there to set things up.
I've just downloaded the PDF and I'm going to tell it, look at this guide, figure out what you need to do. One thing I'm going to do is I have like a just general virtual environment for Python to use. I don't have to do it this way. I could use, I like to use the command line tool. I could use VS Code instead. But what I'm going to do is just, okay, look at this web page. I'll see how this works. I haven't actually tried it, letting it go on its own. We already have a local VM activated. Turn the Arizona DOPA PDF form in. Yeah, I just know the path to that into a working Docassemble interview by following instructions. You should have I'm going to tell it can use a Docassemble API key for apps.dev.suffolklitlab.org in /docassemble CLI, because I have a key there. Probably I should just make a new one each time I want to do this. So it's not stored there, or have one that expires quickly. That's a better practice probably. But what it should be able to do is it should be able to not have to read the file to do that. It can just, this is the API key, and it can just, it's visible to the tools, but not ever sent to the AI. Okay, and so I'm using Codex. Codex is the command line tool from OpenAI to let you do coding. So I might just like be a little bit more specific. You have to do a couple of things. Like you'll want to relabel the fields on the PDF using the endpoints so they match assembly line conventions. You'll want to draft an interview with the Weaver endpoint and then keep refining it until it passes the linter and you're confident it's easy to use. Let's see how this goes and let's see what it does. And there's not one formula for what you need to say. One thing I had to do is I have to turn on network access. If you use this command line tool, it doesn't start out being allowed to read the network. So you have to turn that on. If you, instead of using this command line tool, which I just happen to like, if you used something like GitHub Copilot instead, I think that automatically has network access turned on. So
And
you
the
don't.
reason for using a virtual environment is so that it doesn't muck things up in your main computer.
No, actually, it's not. Well, in a way, yes, but it's not a virtual computer that I'm talking about here. It's a Python virtual environment. So it just means
Oh, okay.
when it adds or removes Python packages, they're just for this one project. It's not as big of a barrier as what you're
Okay.
envisioning, which is a perfectly safe thing to do. What it With this tool, it will need permission to read anything out of the folder you started in. So it will prompt you for permission. It's done that. It can still fuck up. So you have to be thoughtful about what your risk profile is. And I haven't actually tried to do it. I mean, I made all these tools. I'm like, these are what we're going to want to use, right? And I haven't actually tried all of them.
Hmm.
And some of them I made the first time I did it, I was like, oh, I don't have a way to run the Weaver from the command line, so I should do that. And then let's make it into an endpoint, a REST endpoint. And similarly, there wasn't a linter the first time I tried doing this. So that's all new. This is just going to be doing its thing for a while. It's not that fast. It can take like 10, 20 minutes for each step. So we could watch it, but I could also talk about other stuff while we're watching it. I could show
Sure.
you, answer questions about any other parts of the process. Um,
Okay, this is super cool though.
yeah, I'll just make it so you can see it side by side. So here, this was like my first draft of these instructions, and so I should go back in and make them use. This is here. I guess this explains it now, but I should kind of clean up the stuff that was written, assuming that didn't exist yet. But it's basically a bunch of checklists. I'm like, hey, you really want the AI to not just go willy-nilly doing stuff. You want it to have some rules-based points where you can make sure it's doing something that will work for the long run. And a lot of that's just about checklists. And nice thing, like the assembly line was always built with the idea in mind that people can come in with very little training and do something very helpful. That's really where we are with AI. Like it can do simple tasks reliably. It's getting able to do larger and larger tasks, but even so, it still needs supervision. Checklists are that bridge. So like this was very detailed and probably can be simplified a lot. Let's see what it's doing. It seems like it's just going to keep going. Sometimes like with this tool, it will give up after a short amount of time and say, basically make you type something more. But I'm getting it to do a very large task. Codex, you pay a flat monthly fee for, but you can you can use up all of your tokens for a given 5-hour period. Um, you could
When you,
with
Quentin, when you say use up all your tokens for a given 5 hour period, do you have 5 hours in the month, or you can use 5 hours at a time and then you reset 24 hours later?
It's like a rolling window. I think it's like you can't do too many things in one 5-hour period. And I think there
Right.
is also a weekly quota. It's kind of, you can kind of see how much are you
Hmm.
using it. This one here where it says 77% left, that's not my quota. That's how much memory it has in its context window.
All right.
So what this is doing here is it's instead of like if you talk to ChatGPT, everything happens basically in the ChatGPT interface, right? Like you send it text, it writes back with text. It doesn't do stuff in the world. With these agentic tools, like and Copilot can do this too, but Codex, I don't know why it feels more natural sometimes for me to use. Maybe just because it's a bit faster. You just type. Um, it is running a bunch of commands. So you can see here every command it runs. And so those commands can do very complex tasks deterministically. The AI just has to know when to start running those tasks. And they don't use up the AI's smarts, basically, right? Like, the more text you type, the AI processes all of it. you're using up its knowledge or memory window that it can know about something at a given time. When it runs a command, like it can do very long and slow tasks without having to really, it can just checks in once in a while and sees, well, did it make progress? And it only needs to know, like, has it updated to make this work? So this is interesting. Like you can kind of see here, yeah, like one of the things I noticed it said was, hey, it's taking too long to label this using your API. So I'm going to just do it myself. And it ran a different command to do it itself. I don't forget. Let's see if I can see that in this transcript here. You can read everything it's doing, and you can decide how many times you want to let it confirm. Okay, so now it's going to be asking for my permission before it can write anything into this folder outside of the working directory. So I'm going to say yes, it can write this file to the temp directory. That's fine. Be cool if we could get this working in 20 minutes. But I will say, like, usually this takes me a couple hours of like back and forth. But I'm just going to see what it gives us by the end of this process. It might, something is usually not totally done. So it's now gotten to the point where it's written through all the way to the Weaver stage. So we have something that could run. And we can even look at that and see what it is. It should be in the same folder here. What did I see? AI test here. Let's just open up in VS Code. It'll be a little bit easier to see. What does the question file look like? So it's got all the stuff that comes out of the Weaver here. It has this very generic list code of just, it's about CO, just as courts, something about courts, which is not very accurate. But the AI hasn't started to work on it yet to rewrite it. See, these are all kind of just placeholder phrases here.
It's like watching somebody code an interview in speed up time.
Right. See, like this is here, like, before you get started, you need to. It's like all just placeholder stuff. So
Quinten, this is what we're looking at now is its first draft. It's going to go through this and refine it as it's looking at all these rules.
mhm.
Yeah, I see.
And we can look at this and see what those labeled forms look like, what the fields that it chose are.
Can you have it? It said it's taking too long to go through your API for labeling. I'm going to label it myself. Once it's done labeling itself, can it compare to your API? I mean, will that take less time for it to compare its labels to the API labels? And do you know what I mean? So it's one thing to use the assembly line labels. It's a different thing for it to make up its own labels and then compare its own labels with the assembly line labels. Would that
Yeah.
be, would one, yeah.
Um, you can call it interactively, so it could try that again. It made its own decision there. So, but yeah, you could kind of write in more rules and say always do it this way. Don't ever try to do it yourself. But it's basically the same thing. Honestly, like in the if you access it from our server, we're using the cheapest AI. That's what we have turned on as the default. Here, this is using like currently the top of the AI coding leaderboards, or maybe not. Maybe Google passed it in some of those leaderboards. What I just don't happen to subscribe to the Google AI. So it's actually probably going to do a better job locally than using our online thing because it's basically the same prompt. It's like look at all of the assembly line variables, rewrite them so that they're good, and yeah. So it's okay that it didn't use our tool. It was probably a dumber AI than what it's found on its own. And here, You can actually see these are pretty good if those of you have done assembly line coding. These actually look like great field labels to me. Um, these ones I'm not as sure about. Signature, date, day. I don't know about that, but maybe that is actually a convention that's written down. I just can't remember. But these are all fine. You know, you have the 5 children's names. They make sense. They look pretty good. And I didn't have to do anything. Like if we started with the original labels, we can probably see they're going to have just been uh,
So when when you're looking at the list of fields on the right-hand side, is that just Adobe?
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
You see,
Adobe.
these are what they started as, like just kind of
Mhm.
random sentences and weird stuff. And it did label them so that they match our standards. And also, let me see. No, this is the same. Okay, I was going to say, oh, it turned the radio buttons into checkboxes, but that's not true. They were already checkboxes. All right, let's see the progress it made. It did say something about replacing the YAML with a new updated YAML. Let's see if it worked, if it looks better. Okay, so it's picked a new list topic. It knows this is a family law form, not a generic court form. It's filled in this interview helps you with relevant information. It's decided to take out all of the sections and progress bars. I don't really know why I did that. We'll see. I don't know what interview ready equals true means. And it's done this awkward thing here where it's asking about the children. It doesn't know about list gathering. So not everything is going to be perfect. Let's see, but you can give it feedback, of course, too. And it doesn't know you don't need to filter like this. So, okay, this probably is a working interview though. So we could try that. I could tell it, install this into a playground named AZ Dopa on apps dev.suffolklab.org with DA install. So like you probably don't have to be that specific. Some of those instructions are already on the web page. But I'm just gonna, this is slightly faster. Not really. I could just do the same thing by hand. But it's just gonna run that command now. So we could run our little interview that it came up with, which I already see things I'd want to change, but it did it in 20 minutes. I mean, it's pretty similar, right? Like at this point, it's not that different from a out of the box Weaver interview. It just has some of the stuff better. Like the placeholder text is more responsive to the actual form. It's not using our game conventions and it has an error. Let's see. Caregiver details. Well, what do you think that was supposed to be? It's given it an ID caregiver details, and it's using that to in the interview order block. So it's made this whole pattern of mistake here. So I'm going to try to give it some feedback here. You're using the ID to run the screen. I don't even care about that typo. It should just work fine. You need to mention a variable on that screen, not the ID. Fix that throughout. Another pattern is you should use AL people list and dot gather pattern, not a bunch of individual variables for each child. And maybe I could give it an example. Like I happen to have another folder here. Look at this, the Texas DOPA form would be a good one for to look at, right? I have that checked out here. So I'm going to just give that that path to it. Try to follow as many coding choices as you can. from that interview. What else? This is probably pretty good, but there, like, it started with that placeholder. I'm trying to figure out why did it have that? I think it's just missing a code block that we didn't have. So that's probably actually an error in the Weaver, now that I think about it.
It's interesting because, like, on the one hand, it feels like it takes a while for an AI, but then when I think about how long it would take me to do all of this work, it's a lot faster.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, right? Like you're sitting there, you have to watch it, twiddle your thumbs for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Awkward wait time, but doing a lot of things. So, like we said at one point during working on the Weaver, like what would our ultimate goal? I think we said this like 2 years ago. It's like if you could run it through the Weaver and it would take 4 hours to have a good interview, then I would feel like we had success for a simple thing. And this is a pretty simple form. This is a form that only has, like 40 fields on it, maybe. And a lot of them are like just different parts of somebody's name. So, uh, and that's the kind of form maybe you're like, hey, the scope is small enough. You could trust an AI to, you could read the whole thing and see, like, did it make the right choices for me or not?
Quinten, have you tried using this to add an additional form to the YAML and say, hey, this has a lot of similar fields. Can you add this to be produced by the program as well and use existing variables as needed and make questions for the new fields?
It should work the same way. And right, like, so like the key thing here is, right, you can kind of control it and have it better match your coding styles and generate maintainable code with the checklists and things. But yeah, it's open-ended. You could tell it this tool any given open-ended task and it will try. And then like for the parts where no, I really want you to do it this way, like if you would give that feedback to a developer or a student, change it, like your thing works, but not the way I want it to, then we can write it into the system. So there's not a special tool to help with merging two interviews or adding a form to an existing interview, but you can tell it actually does a lot better once it has context. So here, like the way I'm giving it better context, I'm like, I already had this interview. I did with some partial AI coding this interview too. Um, this a very similar way, but it was like kind of what led to building all these individual tools for it to use. But I had a lot closer supervision at the end, and that was why it took 4 hours total to finish. Here, I just tell it, look at the example. And it should start to make something that it doesn't, you don't have to say, what does it mean for it to be like the example? It can just infer that from it. See here, yeah, so it ran it through the linter. And because I told it to do it here, to install it, rather than manually running the install command, it already has picked up I should reinstall it when I'm done.
Did I miss how did it know to put it in the playground?
Oh, so I use a command called da install that's available on my computer to do that.
Okay.
So it has a bug. I'm curious how it passed the linter, but it can't run. But all I'm going to do, feedback loop, is just give it, I could find the exact error. It looks like there's something wrong here with used label and code together for one field, which I could just delete that line. But okay, it's changed it not a way I like, so I'm going to stop it. Just hit escape. No, don't remove the use of name fields or store. Just don't try to use label with name fields. It won't work. You can add note above instead. So I don't know. This is like, there's no science to this really, but you're just trying to give it feedback. So like stop it before, this is the nice thing about the transcript is you can stop it if it starts going crazy doing something you didn't want it to do. And Michelle, you were asking like, could you use an open source coding assistant tool instead that runs locally? Sure, yeah. Like it's all Codex is open source. I don't know if people have pointed it to different AIs. There's one that I found on GitHub called, I don't remember what it's called. I think the command you use to run it is called coder. That can connect to Codex and Gemini at the same time. I don't know if it also can talk to like Olama and then therefore any local AI you're running. But yeah, there's no reason it couldn't. And then on our server, we just plug in the URL to connect to the AI. They've all kind of tended to standardize on using the same API structure. So it could be pointing to any AI running somewhere. It could be running on a machine of your with 100% your control using local AI. That's no reason it couldn't be doing that. Okay, so see, like it's gotten everything pretty good here. Let's put in the jurisdiction code from Folio. It used to be called Sally. And we just like, these are mostly coding related things. I was having it correct. So, okay, but now it's using our name fields object, right? Like it's using the right pattern for collecting the name. I don't really like this is not an address. I don't really know why. I could change that. Okay, so it only asked me about one child, which is good. Two. I don't know if that's really the right pattern. I guess maybe it is. Usually in other states, it's the opposite. You say what it can't do. You don't say you don't list the things they can do.
Hmm.
I mean, that's pretty good. Okay, so it's
I mean, there's work to be done, but yeah.
might be closer than some of our students' first drafts.
Yeah, that's having just watched a bunch of demos.
So I don't remember if I just kind of clicked through. So I don't remember if all of these are filled in the way that I would have wanted it to be based on the answers I gave or not, but it filled in something. It's created these next steps instructions, which come out of the box from the Weaver. I could tell it to edit that too. So say without, I know we only have 2 minutes, without changing any of the formatting, add some more information about the process into the next steps instructions. Oh, something I didn't do, which I normally would do, is I would give it a resource. So is there a help page about this form here? There is.
Oh, to give it
Use
context for the work it's doing.
and make a QR code for this web page in the instructions. I don't know if I can actually do that or not, but it can access, it's running a Python, it's a full Python environment, right? So it can run code to edit the Word document too. That could be one of the tools it calls. We'll see if it works. See if how well it does. Usually what I found is when I just didn't give it really constrained instructions, it would add text to um, it would replace all of the formatting too. It would edit the Word document, but it would be unformatted, which I didn't like that. So anyway, this isn't replacing us, guys. It's not good enough yet. You still have, like you can see, I had to intervene a bunch, but it really can be a huge time saver. But yeah, more questions?
No questions. That's awesome.
Curious if those might finish and might not. that we probably shouldn't make people stay on late to see it.
No, but JJ, I would love to get the walkthrough on next time. Maybe we could schedule you for our next workshop for how to install a local AI, and maybe even end with how to do what Quinten was showing us with the local AI.
Well, admittedly, it's not going to be as nearly as good as what he showed. Because it's the way that's the way it's going to work, right? It
Sure.
depends on the laptop you have. It depends on the model you use and the constraints you give it. Like if you go off to an API, like the difference between using just to preface this all by saying you take the advantage of private AI on your own hardware means you have the resources that you put it on your own hardware. You don't share it with
Right.
OpenAI or Gemini or Azure or whatever, and you know where it goes. And sometimes that's important, sometimes it's not, and that's how you have to look at it through that lens.
Well, maybe you can help us explore the possibilities and limitations when we get there.
Sounds good.
Thanks, y'all. See you later.
See everybody.